Hi, I'm Mark with Turn 1 Steering. We get a few questions from customers all the time, and one of those is, what is the difference between your pump series that I see online, the Street, HP1, HP2, and others, and then which one's right for me? So in this video, I'm going to walk through the different series, what they were intended to be used for, some of the key differences, and hopefully that answers the question, which one is right for your vehicle. We'll be talking about our four main series in this video, and that is our Street Series, HP1, HP2, and Hydroboost. You will see a few other logos on our website for our truck kits and things like that, but as far as pump tuning is concerned, those are our four main standard tune specifications. And before we dive in, I did want to mention just a few key things. One is that any pump you see on our website, we can essentially customize in a variety of ways. So if you don't think that one of these fits at the end of this video, or you're still not sure, give us a call. We can always work through your vehicle and make sure you're getting the right pump. The other thing to know is that from our perspective, we always want to tune the pump for the vehicle's worst case driving condition. So even if you street drive your car or truck 99% of the time, we want to tune it to that 1% where you're drag racing it, autocrossing, track driving, off-roading, taking it to the sand dunes. That's where a pump will experience typically the most wear and tear, is high RPM and high wheel load. And so even if that's a small percentage of your actual driving time, that's where we want to make sure the pump is set and working best at. So keep that in mind as I'm walking through this. And the last thing I'll touch on is vehicles change over time with builds. And so keep in mind that you may want to get a pump that is somewhat future protected against possible changes. So overbuilding a pump a lot of times is a good idea if you're thinking that the vehicle might evolve or your driving situations might change in the future. Let's dive into the Street Series now. Our Street Series pumps is pretty straightforward. These are designed for street use, and that's about it. Most of the pumps that we sell for the Street Series are either going in OEM replacement fitments, or they're for daily drivers, show cars, really vehicles that are never going to see a performance condition. And again, from performance, what I mean is really, really high RPM and really high cornering conditions. So, we do offer several fitments for Street Series, and certainly they can still be customized. But essentially, our Street Series pumps maintain factory specifications. There's nothing upgraded about those pumps. HP1 Series, however, that's where we start getting into the fun stuff of upgrading the pump so that it can do a lot more and work better. So let's dive into our HP1 Series. All right, our HP1 Series. You can think of this kind of like a stage 1 upgrade to a pump. And you'll notice some of our pumps are actually not available in Street Series because it's a pretty different pump than the factory ran. But essentially all of our pumps can be set to HP1 configuration. And HP1, there are really two key differences here. We do internal changes to the pump. This is not a visual change that you'll see from the outside of the pump. A street pump to an HP1 pump is going to look exactly the same. We make the pump run more efficiently, so we change things internally so that when the pump is spinning at higher RPMs, it's not wasting as much energy. And that has a direct translation to not taking parasitic horsepower consumption off your accessory drive. So the pump is literally saving you power because it's not taking as much power to drive it. That also means that there's less energy being put into the fluid as temperature. So direct results of HP1 upgrade are lower fluid temperatures and some horsepower savings at high RPM. And again, this is just kind of wear and tear on the pump. It's not running as hard at high RPM. We also bump up the pressure capacity of the pump. Pause with me here because there's so much misinformation online about what pressure is, how it works. I'm going to boil this down to one simple thing. The pressure capacity basically just means the pump has more muscle to use when and if it needs to. We'll probably be doing some other videos about pressure. So HP1 essentially, more muscle for harder cornering conditions. And you can also think about that like if the vehicle has, wider, grippier tires, better suspension tuning, or you're going to be putting it into a condition where there's just harder cornering, the HP1 is a nice upgrade. We do a lot of these for drag race guys that are going to be spinning fast, but maybe not cornering as hard. And certainly into the more aggressive street car build that might do some hard street driving, and or kind of a light autocross, maybe light road race build. But now we're getting into HP2, so let's talk about the HP2 Series. All right, the HP2 Series. This is really, I think, where Turn 1 shines, and the majority of pumps we do are actually to our HP2 spec for good reason. Now, here you actually will see a visual difference on the pump, and this is one of the only visual differences between the series. We do a bearing upgrade on all of our HP2s, so you actually will see a difference between the factory bearing, which is kind of an orange color, and the black high temp bearing that we put in our HP2s. The tuning differences of the HP2, we do the same internal changes to make the pump run more efficiently, but going back to that pressure capacity, we bump that up a little bit so that the pump can build even more pressure when and if it needs to. And again, back to basics, it's giving the pump more muscle. So this can handle a vehicle that experiences even higher wheel loads. Practically speaking, what that looks like. Any drift car, we recommend our HP2 series because they run very, very high loads on their steering gears with the high angle wheel kits and just high RPM. A lot of dedicated track cars or even weekend track cars will be HP2 spec, and certainly other applications like some off-road stuff we do HP2, again, kind of crawling off-road, big tires pushing off rocks. Two other key things on the HP2 are that we do free flow rate adjustment. So we will set the flow rate output to whatever type of steering gear your vehicle has, and that can be changed. And then we also have a drive shaft upgrade option. And what that is for is essentially protecting the pump against high belt loads. So if you have a supercharger that's running on the same belt where you have a really high tension, or even if you're running a manual tensioner and you have that really tightened up to prevent any slippage, there have been instances where the drive shaft can actually walk or spin out of the pump. That's obviously very bad. So we brace the drive shaft. That's a custom upgrade that's exclusive to Turn 1, and it just helps protect the pump. There's no downside to that. So essentially our HP2 is a higher spec, but it is also more customizable in some ways. The last thing I'll mention is our Hydroboost series of pumps. And Hydroboost is pretty simple, just like the Street Series. It's designed for Hydroboost brake applications, which we're seeing over the past few years are still very, very popular with a lot of resto mods, classic conversions, things like that. Hydroboost brakes put a big demand on the power steering pump because now you're asking the pump to not just handle steering, but also handle your braking assist. And so essentially you want to make sure the pump has enough muscle to do both of those jobs together when you're steering and braking. And there's a whole bunch of issues that Hydroboost customers can run into. We have a few different common setups, and essentially we try and make it plug and play so that the pump is able to do its job and handle the braking assist perfectly. Those are our 4 main series. Hopefully that gives you an idea of when and where each tuning standard is applicable. Hopefully that helps answer which one is right for you. Certainly if you still have questions, the best way to contact us is via phone or email, and that information can be found on our website at turn1steering.com. Thanks for watching.